just a second. Let me try to recording.
All warfare is based on deception. That is written in a book called The Art of War from 5 BC. But we have information before that. We know that information, warfare began in heaven, and it was an information warfare. So that war has been going on since heaven, but the war in our generation is going on. And it's through the use of social media. The media weapons are as powerful as tanks, guns, and missiles. They discover how to control and manipulate your emotions, your opinions, and then you are able, by doing that, to restructure the framework of the whole world. And we saw that recently in our election in 2016. So I wanted to find this term that was first introduced in the 1990s by RAND Corporation. It's a government-funded think tank, and the word is called net war. And what they were seeing is that there was an emerging forms of conflict in which participants were made up of scattered groups and networks. So there was no hierarchy. They were individual groups or just individuals. And they were opposite of what we had been used to, which is a hierarchy of a cohesion of an institution, such as the police, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, whose main aim is to use information and knowledge to attain their goal. So these collection of peoples and groups without a clear hierarchy of command and who communicate through all points of communication channels go through the internet and have a global reach, in contrast to the institution that has more of a organized armed forces and they communicate in centralized channels, whereas these have more free agents. So the comparison is that cyber war revolves around the use of militaristic use of network interfaces such as espionage and sabotage, whereas this net war is characterized more by massive information drives that are designed to enlighten the general public of specific information that is usually held secret by the larger institutions. So, WikiLeaks, Edward Snowden, different groups that are online, gather information to try and make changes. And the information they release is from the institutions that don't want the information released. So they're seeing that current wars and future wars are not going to always be won by physical forces, but by the manipulation of information. And that's what this net war, it's a warfare that purposely tries, this net war purposely tries to disrupt or modify what a target population knows or thinks it knows about itself and the world around them. There are strategies such as using propaganda and psychological campaigns, political and cultural subversion, public diplomacy, and deception of the local media, or even working with the local media. I've heard a number of people talk about there's so much information. They don't know what to believe. They don't know who to trust. So they're losing their stability to even think culturally where they live, how they live, because they don't know what to think. They don't know who to believe. And it's on a massive scale. And it's on purpose because certain alternative websites do put out particular types of information at certain timing to flood the information through the internet about a particular topic. So if they see something happen that they don't agree with, they'll come out with a whole lot of articles that are opposed to it, like they did for Clinton, the campaign, smear campaign against Clinton, and just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and it's on a website that gets 7 million hits a day, a month. That's a lot of people. And then they share that on Facebook and it goes out. But this was first used in 1990, which is shortly after the internet was invented. So we know today that online wars are real with real effects. The country of Ukraine has been constantly attacked by Russia in cyber warfare, affecting their banking, their public transportation, their grids, anything that's connected to the internet and is electrical or needs power, they can affect by their communications through their internet with the bad cyberware, malware. They have a lot of names: Cozy Bear, Dancing Bear, things like that. So over the years, we have witnessed mobile tech, carefully controlled app stores, and corporate consolidation has had a massive change in the internet, and that's namely who controls it. Once there was a very large selection of blogs and websites, but now these have been pretty much compressed or trampled on by the few Goliath-type dominant internet platforms: Facebook, Google, Yahoo, all of those. This concentration of power creates a new set of gatekeepers, allowing a handful of platforms control which ideas and opinions are seen and shared. And as we've seen through the issue of Cambridge Analytica, Mark Zuckerberg went before Congress and answered questions. How are you, because he's a gatekeeper for Facebook, and how are you determining what to allow in and what to not allow? And are you fact checking? And I think he says they have 200 people on staff that do that, and that's not very many people in light of the sheer volume of information that's on Facebook. So the web, the web has fallen under the control of a few giant corporations that are essentially too big to fail. And if they fail, they're going to take down a vast amount of global business with them. Because how many people, businesses, rely on the internet? And this brings us to remember about the banks. They were too big to fail. And the fact that power is concentrated among so few companies has made it possible to weaponize the web. So these few big companies, and we see that this is actually what they have done. They have turned social media and the internet into a weapon to be used because of the ability to reach the whole world, to reach a vast amount of people in a quick time frame and relatively low cost, depending on your campaign. So around the world, information has been freed. We have had an increase of knowledge on so many levels. You can go to the computer and look up anything at any time, and there it is. But it has also had a countering wave of authoritarianism using social media itself, woven into a pushback of repression, censorship, and even violence by the gatekeepers. There are now countries and governments who will not allow their internet system is controlled within their country. They do not have external access to the whole world like we do. They are very limited. And even some countries will turn the internet off when there's a crisis. And so they can't even get information in or out. So scale, which means profits that rise, allows the most successful Silicon Valley entrepreneurs to rule like absolute sovereigns over their platforms, and by extension over everyone who relies on them. So think of all the apps that you have all the information you are willingly and knowingly, maybe not knowingly, but you're giving over to your data points to these companies. And they control how it works in your life, and then that information is shared with others and can be used for good or bad. So at the end of the day, the metrics that matter the most aren't the number of violent crimes that have been averted or the number of humans that have been shielded from harm. For these companies, it's their stock price and their year-to-year revenue. So in turn, the transparencies for these companies have been forced upon the world, and their most important decisions still originate in closed boardrooms. It was only after Edward Snowden released all those documents that the big platform companies, Yahoo, Google, all of those, decided to start encrypting the data that was going through around the world through these data pipelines of information and to and from the customers. But before that, they didn't even think about it. They didn't care. But then when they found out the government was getting in and doing things, they decided, oh, well, we better do this. And we were the benefit of that. So ultimately, the greatest challenge that confronts these social media giants has nothing to do with software code. It's the problem of corporate incentives, clashing cultures, and the historic revolution that has left both politics and Silicon Valley reeling. Because the internet is not a formless digital cloud. It's made up of physical things, and no one could hope to control so monumental a creation. However, there are governments are a different story. For all the immensity of today's electronic communications network, the system remains under the control of only a few thousand internet providers. The firms that run the backbone or the pipes of the internet. And those pipes can be controlled by governments, companies, and authorities. It's whoever controls the hardware. So through the right balance of infrastructure, control, and manipulation, digital age regimes can exert remarkable control over not just computer networks and human bodies, but the minds of their citizens as well. In China, all these firewalls, surveillance, keyword censorship, arrests, and crowdsourced propagandists are intended to merge the consciousness of 1.4 billion people with the consciousness of the state. China's social credit is the icing on the cake. And I think I mentioned earlier that there's a documentary on Frontline called In the Age of AI, and it shows life in China. So there was recently a book published called Like War, The Weaponization of Social Media by P.W. Singer and Emerson T. Brooking. And I'm going to be reading some excerpts from that book by a gentleman who did a review of it named Ron. So, Like War is a book that anyone who's active in social media should read. It's a terrifying book of how social media can be applied to not only to manipulate and win elections, which we saw, that in 2017, there were at least 18 national level elections were targeted by social media manipulation. But also the public opinion, how to win wars, and ultimately how to win your mind and your heart is at the core of this. So the engineers behind social media had specifically designed their platforms to be addictive. The brain fires tiny bursts of dopamine as a user posts a message and it receives reactions from others, trapping the brain in a cycle of posts, likes, retweets, and shares. That cycle is easiest fired up by outrage and fear. The speed, emotional intensity, and echo chamber qualities of social media content make those exposed to it experience more extreme reactions. I don't know if you've ever read any comments on some of these, like if you read an article on some website, scroll down and read some of the comments. The fury, the anger, it's so radically, it's so strong. I've never really noticed it till recently how much it's grown in people's comments to the hate of something they disagree with or a person's opinion or thoughts. And to the point that there's even talk, using weapons against people because they don't agree with that opinion. And so that media is having its effect, and people are losing basically control of their lower passions. So social media is particularly suited to worsening political and social polarization because of its ability to spread violent images and frightening rumors extremely quickly and intensely. There's a reason President Trump chooses Twitter to give out his messages. He has a platform that reaches millions and millions of people. And then the news people watch it, and then it's on the news, and then it just goes and it's out there. So the link between social media and this narrowing perspective is well documented. Back in 2011, the term filter bubble was popularized by Eli Pariser in his book of the same name. It describes the algorithmic hypnosis that companies like Google, Facebook, and Twitter perform on their users, learning their habits and reinforcing them with tailored content. So you can see when you go on Facebook, if you are not self-aware and are not diligent when you're reading and going through, you will succumb to what they do with your information to enable them to get you to either purchase or to think or to like, dislike, whatever, to get you to respond in the way that they want. So social media once promised to act as a window to the world, but slowly but surely has become an engine for a kind of global solipsism, a breeding ground for fake news, bias, compulsion, and vanity, which profit the shareholders of these platforms. Facebook has turned into actually the largest, 1/3 of the population of the world is on Facebook, over 2 billion people. And because of people going like and dislike, they're revealing their likes and dislikes. And who uses that? Advertisers. So they find out, and now Facebook has been able to basically turn itself into a advertising mecca, because there's a group of people that are connected, and as soon as they find something they like, they share it. And so this advertising, so they're making so much money. They have so much to do with it. They have so much money because advertisers are paying for this platform because they can get, they don't have to guess what you like and don't like. They know what you like and don't like. And so they can make their ad target specific products.
They don't need focus groups anymore.
Right.
We are the focus
We are
group.
the focus group, but actually, we have actually turned into the product that people are buying. They want us, so they use the information to get us to do what they want for their own benefit. So this book explains how, in great detail, how the Zapatista National Liberation Army, ISIS, Syria, Russia, local gangs, FARC, China, India, Pakistan, Myanmar, Sudan, the US, the Mexican drug cartel, and presidents are using social media to engage what is in effect cyber war. There was an interesting article about gangs that are where now instead of having the clashes on the streets, they have clashes on Facebook. So if one gang A says something to gang B and he gets, embarrassed or humiliated or whatever, that turns into a thing on the Facebook, but it will eventually work its way to the street. But it didn't originate in the street. It originated on Facebook. It's just, So we're talking about cyber militia using AI, message tailoring, sentiment manipulation, machine learning, scripts, words, hashtags, videos, live streaming, memes, and images as their weapons of choice. Narrative, emotion, authenticity, community, and inundation are the most effective tools of online battles, and their mastery guides the efforts of the most successful information warriors. I forget how many ads that were put up on Facebook really close to the election for Trump.
65,000 versus like
Yeah.
7,000 that she
Yeah, it was phenomenal, the amount in such a short period of time, and the money that was spent. These new wars are not won by missiles and bombs, but by those who are able to shape the storylines that frame our understanding, to provoke responses, to impel us to action, and to connect with us at the most personal level, to build a sense of fellowship, and to organize to do it all on a global scale again and again. So you can see the emotional level, the emotions, how they are, doing these things to us. So like the good old World War I and World War II propaganda wars, but now on steroids, instant and at a global scale. Hitler told his generals, "I will provide a propagandistic casus belli. Its credibility doesn't matter. The victor will not be asked whether he told the truth." A completely different use of knowledge is power. Weaponized information at light speed, where any individual can incite a cycle of violence. Attacking an adversary's most important center of gravity, the spirit of its people, no longer requires massive bombing or reams of propaganda. All it takes is a smartphone and a few idle seconds. Did you know that when Trump announced his nationalistically themed presidential campaign in 2015, 58% of his Facebook followers, oddly, came from outside the United States? Did you know that the Star Wars botnet, for example, is made up of over 350,000 accounts that pose as real people? Did you know that when Newt Gingrich promised to build a moon base didn't excite voters in the 2012 U.S. presidential primaries, his campaign reportedly bought more than 1 million fake followers to try and create a sense of national support? Did you know that in South Korea, a massive botnet operated by military cyber warfare specialists had transmitted nearly 25 million messages intended to keep the ruling party in power? Did you know that during the Brexit, Britain's contentious 2016 referendum to leave the European Union, researchers watched as automated Twitter accounts that had long championed Palestinian independence abruptly shifted their attention to British politics? Did you know that the pro-Brexit bots outnumbered the robotic champions of Remain by a ratio of 5-1? Did you know that on Twitter alone, researchers discovered roughly 400,000 bot accounts that fought to sway the outcome of the race, 2/3 of them in favor of Donald Trump? Did you know that microchip could produce more than 30,000 retweets in a single day, each of which could reach orders of a magnitude more users. Did you know that Twitter's analysis found that bots under the control of Russia's Internet Research Agency generated 2.2 million election-related tweets in just the final 3 months of the election? Did you know that Facebook's internal analysis estimated that 126 million users saw Russian disinformation on its platform during the 2016 campaign? Did you know that the botnet contributed between 48 and 73% of the retweets that spread them? Did you know that Russian-generated propaganda had been delivered to users 454.7 million times? Applying the 4 Ds. Dismiss the critic, distort the facts, distract from the main issue, and dismay the audience. And did you know that by the end of the campaign, the Trump team had run almost 6 million different versions of online ads? And once, the number of variations on a single message approached 200,000. Did you know that Jen, J-E-N-N, was quoted in articles in the BBC News, BET, Breitbart, Business Insider, BuzzFeed, CNN, The Daily Caller, The Daily Dot, The Daily Mail, Dallas News, Fox News, France 24, Gizmodo, HuffPost, UR, The Independent, InfoWars, Mashable, The National Post, The New York Daily Times, The New York Times, The Observer, Quartz, Refinery 29, Sky News, The Times of India, The Telegraph, USA Today, US News and World Report, The Washington Post, and Yahoo Sports, and surprisingly, Russia Today and Sputnik. Each of these articles was then read and reacted to, spreading her views even further wider. In 2017, Jen was outed by Twitter as yet another creation of Russia's Internet Research Agency, which is a troll factory. So even these reliable news sources got pulled in by a bot. And did you know the best predictor of is not accuracy or even content? It is the number of friends who share the content first. That people were significantly more likely to believe a headline, Pope Francis shocks the world, endorses Donald Trump for president, if they had seen a similar headline somewhere before. And did you know that the invasion of Ukraine is regarded by NATO as the most amazing information blitzkrieg they have seen in the history of information warfare? And it's all there to see if you want to see it. So this book called Like War, The Weaponization of Social Media, will teach about troll factories, sock pockets, homophilia, power law, digital wildfires, military mimetics, thank you. OSI.
Oh, you mean memetics?
Huh?
Memetics.
Mimetics, okay.
They mimic.
Cyberbanging, the spiral of silence and self-censorship, presentism, Twitter bombs, hacktivists, Bellingcat, Breitbart, psychometrics, and confirmation bias. Billions of internet-enabled devices, each carrying multiple sensors, are on pace to create a world of almost 1 trillion sensors and cameras. Each tweet posted on Twitter, for instance, carries with it more than 65 different elements of metadata. This plethora of sensors and associated metadata is making real an idea that has long possessed and frightened humanity: the possibility of an ever-present watcher. It sounds like Orwell's 1984, and alternatively, through the growing synaptic connections, the development of a gigantic electric brain. I don't know if you, I think most of you might remember Star Trek
Yeah. Really outside.
and Borg,
Yeah.
Resistance is futile.
and it's one mind.
Yeah. Hive mind.
Yes, and they were part human and part
Cyborg.
yes, cyber. And as I was reading this, I thought about it, like, oh, the Borg, it's happening, and they're pulling everybody into this having this one mind. So for the first time in human history, it is nearly impossible to be unobserved. Today, a single soldier or a local civilian's Facebook account will be enough to give away the whole gambit. Indeed, even their digital silence might be enough to give it away, since a gap in the otherwise all-encompassing social media fabric would be conspicuous. Virtually any event leaves a digital trail that can be captured, shared, and examined by hungry internet users. A world without secrets.
That's why I've been pressed to talk about it when we need wisdom when we're using social media, because that's what they're using. That's the weapon that they're using.
Yes.
And you have to wonder, God's going to use that social media as well.
Well, and we really do have to realize we are in a war. There may not be bombs and missiles going off, but we are in a war zone.
But we need wisdom when we use it, because they trace everything we do. So when we were talking last night and I talked about the sarcasm, that will all be brought back to us and used against us. Because what we need to be thinking about is we need the mind of Christ to establish credibility in Christ.
Yeah.
And so when we do our warfare, we do it with his mind.
And the warfare, even though there is a physical aspect to it, we know it's actually a spiritual warfare. So there's a future in which the most valued secrets wouldn't come from cracking intricate codes or the whispers of human spies behind enemy lines, the sort of information that only the government can gather. Instead, they would be mined from a vast web of open source data to which everyone else in the world had access. The social media accounts of every military organization, diplomatic envoy, world leader, soldier, and civilian exist in the same digital social environment. Before the rise of social media, 90% of useful intelligence had come from secret sources. Now it was the exact opposite, with 90% coming from open sources that anyone could tap. That is how the Navy SEALs found most of their targets. There was a comment on an article I read where the police and crime fighters, they love Facebook. They can find anybody through Facebook. Even if they're not on Facebook, they could be somebody's friend. So in essence, every light war is a battle for attention with a specific objective in mind: promoting a candidate, gaining concessions, winning a war. And it's challenged by the opponent or other people, groups, or nations. So the new reality creates a perfect opportunity for mass disturbances, or for initiating mass support or mass disapproval. There is just one piece of the puzzle still unaccounted for, perhaps the information battlefield's most dangerous weapon of all: our brains. With new technologies such as neural and generative networks, AR, VR, AI, speech recognition, brain scanning, machine-driven communications, which is MADCOM for abbreviation, we are open for further manipulation. Give a Twitter botnet to MADCOM, and the network might be able to distort the algorithmic prominence of a topic without anyone noticing, simply by creating realistic conversation among its many fake component cells.
Is that like when you get the robocalls with the generated voice?
And they have their computer algorithms that are almost like AI, but they give them information and they're able to respond to specific topics just instantaneously. And then they generate and retweet some up to 900 times a day.
So some of those people that make the comments that sound so angry could be bots.
They could. But generally,
It's like the initial post.
it's really more on Twitter that these bots and websites where they get a following. What will happen is they'll use a real person to create a true character of being accepted, and they gain followers. Then once they have a following, let's say of 100,000, 200,000, then they come out with their false narratives. And that information then is picked up by the bots that have also created fake accounts. But you're following this first person who's real. But then the bots pick up that also. So it just gets disseminated very quickly.
But those bots can also act like friends of the one main account you're trying to sell to make it look like they're a really popular account, and then more people want to be friends with them because like, oh, everyone knows this guy.
And so that instead of using your own thinking, you're going by how many people like them or how many people are reading them and how popular they are. Well, it must be true. Look at how many people said it. So that's where we have to use wisdom to discern that. So then you feed MadCom enough arguments and it will never repeat itself. You can feed it enough information about a target population, such as the hundreds of billions of data points that reside in a voter database like Project Alamo, and it can spin a personalized narrative for every resident in a country. And I think it's, sometimes I get over, like, I can't believe how a computer can do this, just by the data that they give it, and then it's able to produce comments that are received and they put them out. So I looked up Project Alamo, and it was a database of voter information created by Donald Trump's presidential campaign for 2016 and an associated fundraising and political advertising operation on social media platforms. It's interesting, it was Project Alamo. So when you combine all these applications of neural networks, mimicked voices, stolen faces, real-time audio-visual editing, artificial image and video generation, and MadCon manipulation, it's tough to shake the conclusion that humanity is teetering at the edge of a cliff. For generations, science fiction writers have been obsessed with the prospect of an AI Armageddon, a Terminator-style takeover in which the robots scour puny human cities, flamethrowers and beam cannons at the ready. But the more likely takeover will take place on social media. If machines come to manipulate all we see and how we think online, they will already control the world. This is from The Seventh Sense, and we know if an AI has, would we know if an AI has taken over? So we need to be educated. Humans as species are uniquely ill-equipped to handle both the instantaneity and the immense information that defines the social media age, which means we need to educate ourselves fast. The brain can actually works better on one topic at a time. There was an educator video I watched, and she totally blasted multitasking. It says the minute you, like if you're studying and you hear that little Your brain has now left and gone to that. And she says, turn your phone off, turn all your devices off, because the brain needs to focus on one thing at a time so that it can get in there. Instead, we have, and I used to do multitasking all the time, so I could get anything done, but it fragments your mind because it's really messed up. So for all the sense of flux, the modern information environment is becoming stable. It has reached a point of maturity whereby most of its key players will remain the same. Google's not going anywhere, Facebook. Love them or hate them, the majority of today's most prominent social media companies and voices will continue to play a crucial role in public life for years to come. The internet is the battlefield, but the battle is the mind. This battlefield changes how we must think about information itself. If something happens, we must assume that there's likely a digital record of it, an image, video, or errant tweet that will surface seconds or years from now. However, an event only carries power if people also believe that it happened. War and politics have never been so intertwined. This also means that the engineers of Silicon Valley unintentionally have turned into global power brokers, and we are all part of the battle. Whatever we notice, whatever we like, whatever we share, becomes the next salvo. In this new war of wars, taking place on the network of networks, there is no neutral ground. I was on the internet reading some articles, and there was advertising, as there always is. And I remember I had my clicker, and I was looking at the ad a little longer than I normally do. Oh, that's a really pretty sweater. I'm not kidding you. It went from a small picture to a big picture. And I kind of like, whoa, it didn't know I was looking and spending time there. It was just, it's something I hadn't noticed before. So information literacy is no longer merely an education issue, but a national security imperative. Therefore, for governments, the first and foremost important step is to take this new battleground seriously. Social media now forms the foundation of commercial, political, and civic life. It is also a conflict space of immense consequence of both national and individual citizens. We need citizen education programs, public tracking, and notices of foreign disinformation campaigns, which I think now there's I know at least 3 different fact checker websites that you can go to if you hear something and not sure they work on those.
Political.
Yes. We need public tracking and notices of foreign disinformation campaigns, election protections, and forced transparency of political campaign activities and legal action to limit the effect of poisonous super spreaders. And then there's yourself. You need to leap across multiple other websites as they made a determination of accuracy. If you're not in doubt, then you're likely part of the problem. You need to network out to find the truth. The best way to navigate the internet is one that reflects the very structure of the internet itself. When in doubt, seek a second opinion, and then a third, and then a fourth. So in protecting ourselves online, we too all have a broader responsibility to protect others. If people are unwilling to contemplate the world around them in its actuality, they can be easily manipulated. Yet they have only themselves to blame. They, rather than the ruler, possess the real power. The power to decide what to believe and to what to tell others. So we know the information warfare began in heaven. It was propaganda. And thus information and influence campaigns did not start with the 2016 presidential election. And what is new and real, by the way, is the dissemination of fake news via a 24-hour news cycle and and it's nonstop access to it. Our lives are increasingly spent online, and many believe that the use of disinformation as a tool of persuasion and influence has reached new heights. So there was a study by the American Psychological Association, and they found that 66 of Americans are stressed out about the future of the country, and the constant consumption of news was pinpointed as a major contributor. It looks like breaking news is breaking us. And now, with so much information being posted as truth, people are even in a more entrenched era of headline stress disorder, a term coined by author and therapist Stephen Stosny, PhD, in the aftermath of the Trump-Clinton campaign election in 2016. Quote, for many people, continual alerts from news sources, blogs, and social media and alternative facts feel like missile explosions in a siege without end. A lot of negative feelings like anxiety, hopelessness, despair, and sadness is fueled by being tuned in to the 24-hour news cycle. And I look at this and I see this as because we know that the mind and the body are connected, and when you are stressed out and overwhelmed by all of this information, you are now not only physically vulnerable to physical disease and illness for your physical body, but now you are a weaker member of the citizenship of the United States. So the mass group of Americans now are weak in their mind and in their bodies, and now are being made more susceptible to things that they normally would not be. And I think it's being, they're being set up for something very dangerous.
So this is part of our health message.
Yes. There's a Dr. Ozios, an MD. He's a forensic psychiatrist and co-founder of the mental health and media consultancy, Broadcast Thought. He's an expert on the impact media can have on our mental well-being. In an interview, he explained the relationship. Since fake news or false misleading news is intended to manipulate public opinion, it's designed to provoke an emotional response from a reader-viewer. It's often inflammatory in nature and can elicit feelings of anger, suspicion, anxiety, and even depression by distorting our thinking. But don't just take my word for it. A national poll conducted by the American Psychiatric Association in May of 2018 reported that Americans across all demographic groups experienced sharp increases in anxiety levels in the past year, end quote. So he has the science, the information to show the results of Cambridge Analytica's campaign against Americans in the election. So what happens when we encounter fake news? We may be thinking with our emotional brain as opposed to our rational brain. Becoming aware of what kind of media triggers emotional thinking and learning how to employ rational thinking instead can help. I think this is going to be helpful for us to understand what state of mind people are in when we talk with them.
Well, we're also kind of witnessing with the two sides. You're seeing what's going on is creating the two classes, because some are thinking rationally, and others are looking absolutely erratic.
Yes.
And totally irrational.
And it also, I think it can be too that there's definitely got to be those that have been beat down, but they're looking for truth. And when they hear the truth, it will ring. Okay? So, I mean, it really, to me, we understand the chains and bondage of sin, but I see these chains of information and manipulation beating down humanity on such a large scale that, and not even realize what's happening. I mean, I never really studied these kind of things before, but I have not been on Facebook, but I do remember all the headlines, breaking news on Fox, everything's breaking news. I'm like, well, it totally means nothing anymore because everything's breaking. And, but I think it gives a better.
It's like crying wolf.
It is.
Everybody's crying wolf, everybody's
Yes.
crying wolf, and when the wolf shows up, everybody's just like.
It's like a world, not deception, but desensitizing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly what it
Mhm.
is.
And
You
like,
cry wolf long enough, when the wolf shows up, nobody's
People
paying
start
attention.
acting.
how about the frog in the warm water?
Yeah, you just,
Mm-hmm.
Slowly.
Slowly, you just, you don't realize, why do I feel so bad? Why am I so afraid? And it's because of the news.
Yeah.
So this is the enslavement of the world,
Yes.
to set the captives free from this enslavement.
And it's,
They're slaves and
It's
servants
mind.
to this in their mind.
if he gets the mind, then the battle's won. Okay. Becoming aware of what kind of media triggers emotional thinking and learning how to employ rational thinking will help. Dr. Pozios recommends evaluating all information that's presented, even when it comes from trusted sources. He says this takes practice, and individual triggers may vary from person to person, but by utilizing this strategy, we can help protect ourselves from fluctuations in mood or other unwanted emotional responses to fake news. And it goes on a deeper level. Dr. Pozios shared that recognizing or perceiving fake news as fake can elicit feelings of anger and frustration, especially if the reader or the viewer feels powerless in the face of attempts to manipulate public opinion by way of fake news. So we've been able to recognize these thanks to our message, our Midnight Cry message, and what a blessing it's been to have your eyes open and can recognize these things. But now we have to help others also to recognize. So reality is a matter of perception, and information shapes reality. So to shift reality with fake information is destabilizing, and it can have massive, serious ramifications on mental health, leading to significant anxiety and more. We live in a highly connected world. It doesn't take much to tip over into instability or even chaos. The good news is there are some steps that you can take to protect yourself from the negative impact of fake news. Don't believe everything you read. Developing a critical mindset is the first step to spotting fake news. Serve as your own fact checker. Check the date of the article. Just because it comes at the top of the search result page doesn't mean it's the most current information. And also check the source of the information. Look at the information in the URL. Like if it's an academic institution, it'll say .edu. If it's government, it'll say .gov. And they can be among the most reliable places for research, statistics, and factual information. Confirm the information. Go to the organizations that dedicate themselves to this kind of investigatory work. Their mission, when misinformation obscures the truth, they lift the veil via fact-checking. And these would be factcheck.org, Snopes.com, and PolitiFact.com. He also said to look into your biases. According to Dr. Pozios, confirmation bias leads us to put more stock in stories that confirm our beliefs and opinions, and to discount or reject information that does not. Quote, he says, "We have a tendency as humans to accept information we already believe and discount information we already disbelieve." And this is what we see when you have people that will not even open their mind to a new thought because it goes totally against what they have believed. The other thing that causes this is that your beliefs,
Don't believe everything you think.
well that, but your beliefs are actually connected to who you are. It's your identity, and therefore if your belief is attacked, you mentally feel that you are being personally attacked, when actually it's a belief. It's not you that's being attacked. And that's why talking politics and religion at Thanksgiving dinner is never a good idea, because people do not know how to discuss and have a calm talk. Let's look at this, let's look at the facts, let's entertain, maybe there's a different answer, there's a different way of looking at this, instead of just saying, don't even touch it.
Taking it personally.
Yes, and that is a lot of happening in families. This concept is important to be aware of as far as checking your biases, because it helps us to understand how social media can contribute to echo chambers of opinion, which is what Facebook has been called. It's an echo chamber. You just hear the same, everybody's saying the same thing. When my Christian bubble was popped, I was in an echo chamber. Everybody that I hung around with had the same thoughts, and we bounced it off each other like an echo.
There's a quote where Lloyd says that it's the most dangerous place to be, where everybody thinks the same thing. She says there should be other ideas because it encourages study and growth.
He also explains that the next time you're aghast at some media post about a politician you oppose, take a moment to pause and question what you have read. And finally, we need to discern right from wrong. We need wisdom and understanding. And this is a quote from Desire of Ages 458.3. God does not compel men to give up their unbelief. Before them are light and darkness, truth and error. It is for them to decide which they will accept. The human mind is endowed with power to discriminate between right and wrong. God designs that men shall not decide from impulse, but from weight of evidence, carefully comparing scripture with scripture. Had the Jews laid by their prejudice and compared written prophecy with the facts characterizing the life of Jesus, they would have perceived a beautiful harmony between the prophecies and their fulfillment in the life and ministry of the lowly Calvary. We'll close with prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you again so much for this Sabbath day. We thank you for the opportunity to gather, to fellowship, and to study. And Lord, we pray for wisdom and understanding. We pray for the guidance of the Holy Spirit as we walk forward. And we thank you for your protection. We thank you for the light of the midnight cry. Keep us and hold us close to you, Lord. And we pray these things in Jesus' name.